Hello everyone and welcome to my live stream today. This is All Hands on Tech Live. I'm your host today, Jeremy Morgan, and I'm just going to do a quick couple of tech checks here. And I will be just a minute here. I can hear just a slight bit of an echo, so I want to make sure that's gone. All right, perfect. So today I'm doing a live stream. So we're doing this new thing, All Hands on Tech Live. I'm your host today. Tomorrow, David Neal will be your host. So at this same exact time tomorrow, be sure to check it out. He is building an Electron app that is really cool. And so David is really engaging. He's an awesome streamer. I recommend you check it out. I'm going to start streaming on Tuesdays at this time. Now, I know today's not Tuesday. Yesterday, I had a whole bunch of things that just kind of fell apart. And so decided to do it Wednesday. But my schedule is going to be Tuesday. So I'm going to be doing Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. David's going to be doing Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And we're going to create some really cool stuff. So I see right in the chat right now, we have something called What's a Blazor App? I'm actually going to introduce that. So I'm going to have a few slides here, but wait. Before you close the window, it's not going to be all slides. We're going to build an app. We're actually going to open up Visual Studio and do this. But I'm going to just kind of take a few minutes to explain what Blazor is, the two different hosting models and how they work, just to kind of get started. And if there's a lot of interest in this and there's a lot of folks really enjoying what we're doing here, maybe we'll just do a big Blazor series for a while and we'll go through and we'll build some apps. But I promise you'll learn something about Blazor in this stream today. And I also promise that the slides will be very light. We'll do a bunch of coding. And so today we're streaming on several different platforms with All Hands on Tech Live. We're doing Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, several places. We're going to be focusing a lot on Twitch, so I want to encourage everybody to go to twitch.tv/pluralsight_live and follow us there because we're going to be doing a ton of stuff. We're going to bring in other folks, like other Pluralsight authors or tech folks, and we're just going to keep creating really cool stuff for everybody. So I encourage you to check it out. So without further ado, it looks like everything is broadcasting and it looks great. So we're going to go ahead and jump on. I do see someone saying video frozen. I hope not. Let's see. So if the video is frozen on LinkedIn, you could try going to twitch.tv/pluralsight_live or Pluralsight's YouTube channel. They appear to be working there. And it looks like it's working fine on, yeah, it looks like we're good on LinkedIn also, at least from what I can check here. Yeah. So if it's not working on the platform that you're on, jump on to another one. So as promised, here's some slides. Not very many, but I just kind of want to explain what Blazor is, how it works, stuff like that, and then we'll just jump in and we'll start building something. Oh, you might be wondering what we're going to build today. We're going to build one of those What's My IP apps. So when you go to Google or other search engines, say, what's my IP? And this thing comes up and it says, your IP address is this. You must be located here. We're going to do that. We're going to build that with Blazor. It's pretty simple. And what I'm going to show basically is how to create a Blazor app, kind of the basic structure of how it works, basic binding, things like that. We're going to make an API call, and yeah, it's going to be really cool. So we'll just kind of jump right in. Here's my slides. How Blazor works is the title of this slide. So here's how Blazor works. It uses HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and C# and WebAssembly, but we'll get to that. It uses Razor components in place of JavaScript, and it kind of works like web forms. If you're familiar with web forms with Windows, ASP.NET pages, then it should be kind of familiar for you. It uses Razor components, Now, today we're only really going to use one Razor component, so we're not going to get too deep into it. However, you can build these reusable components in Razor and use them all over your application, and they're awesome. They're excellent. And again, it's kind of like web forms. Now, with server-side Blazor, there's two different models. There's server-side and client-side. With server-side Blazor, we have the application running on the server. So this is running on an ASP.NET server. And basically, you make your initial request, HTML and JavaScript comes back. That loads up into a page, and then it uses SignalR to communicate between the HTML and CSS that's on your page and the .NET Core app on the server. This is not too far of a deviation from traditional models, right? So we have just HTML being generated and pushed down. Same thing with JavaScript. We've got SignalR communicating between the two. So you're sending commands. It's going back to the server. The server's saying, oh, you want to do this? We'll do this. So that uses blazor.server.js to handle a lot of that coordination. Now, here are the advantages of doing a server side. So when you're creating a Blazor app, you have a choice of choosing one or the other. Here are the advantages of the server-side applications. Small downloads. You're just downloading a little bit of HTML, some JavaScript, and the page fires off and it's good to go. That's why we're going to do what we do today. We're going to do server-side so that it's very fast to load. You have the full access to the .NET framework. So as you're building your applications, we don't really call it the .NET framework anymore. It's just kind of .NET 5, .NET 6. We're going to do it in .NET 6 today, but it's just .NET. So before we had .NET Core, .NET Framework Traditional. They've merged together. Life is great. If you're a Linux person like me, it's amazing because you can just do development on anything. But anyway, you have better debugging tools. Debugging is a little bit easier. This is changing every day, by the way, but you have a little bit better debugging tools when you do the server-side stuff. And WebAssembly is not needed. What is WebAssembly, you might ask? Well, we will get into that. But WebAssembly isn't needed for server-side necessarily. But there are some disadvantages to choosing server-side over client-side. You can't do anything offline. You have to be connected to the server all the time, solid internet connection. The server bears most of the load, so if you have millions of people on your site, your server is going to be taking the brunt of the processing for that. It's pretty chatty on the network, but it's just like any other traditional, like Angular or Vue app or something like that. There's chatter that goes back and forth between the server and the client. And there's some scalability issues. This one could be argued. We definitely won't get into it on this live stream, but there can be some scalability issues with server side that they aren't quite the same as client side. So with client-side Blazor, you still make the initial request. However, that's where everything changes, right? So it comes back and the entire application is placed on the client. So you remember in the previous slide, we had the application sitting over here next to the server. Well, here it will be on the client. So you're going to download HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and WebAssembly. WebAssembly is cool stuff. It's supported by all of the modern browsers. And basically it's taking that JavaScript and compiling it into something binary that's a lot faster. You're also downloading the .NET runtime. Believe it or not, you are downloading the very first time you hit with a client-side app, you're downloading a version of the .NET runtime that will run on your computer. You're downloading the application. Any DLLs that go with that also get downloaded. So, and that's all controlled by blazor.webassembly.js. Now, if you're thinking that's big, like that sounds like a lot of stuff, it absolutely is. You're downloading all of these things because the application really runs primarily on your machine. There can be server communication, of course. There can be database communication, things like that, but primarily the application is running on the client, which is why they call it client-side Blazor, right? A little bit about WebAssembly, low-level assembly-like language. Like I said, it's a binary format, so it's super fast. And a bunch of different languages compile to WebAssembly, not just C#, not just JavaScript. I think you can compile just about anything into WebAssembly these days. And so with a client-side application, you have your Razor components, .NET framework, and all of that gets compiled into WebAssembly that the browser runs. So we'll kind of skip through some of this here. So with our hosting models, when you're hosting it, the Blazor WebAssembly, basically it's all hosted, it's all run within that client. With Blazor server side, you have the DOM on the client, and it's going back and forth with those Razor components. So this is probably the best slide out of all of them. This just shows where your application lives. Does it live on the server talking to this little client, or does it live on the client talking to the server? The advantages of Blazor WebAssembly, one of the biggest ones is it runs offline. So once all that stuff is downloaded, it can just run on a client. So what I'm thinking is, like, you have an application that uses an iPad or something, some kind of tablet out in the field. You can run your Blazor WebAssembly app on that tablet, go out, have no internet connection, no cell connection, runs just fine. It's all static files, which is cool. So no ASP.NET is required, which means you can host this on GitHub Pages. You could host an entire Blazor application on GitHub Pages. And maybe we'll do a live stream on doing that. But anything that can serve HTML can serve up Blazor app. Doesn't have to be ASP, PHP, anything like that. There's no plugins required. Like I said, most of the modern browsers support it. And near native performance in the browser. So you're probably thinking, here's two good use cases for the Blazor WebAssembly, which is client side. Offline stuff, like folks that need to carry around tablets or cell phones that don't have connection, they can still do their operations, come back, sync up with the database later. And gaming, like near native performance instantly means games. Like you can make games that are fast, quick. You're not sending a bunch of stuff over the pipeline. It's just downloading once into your browser and running. The disadvantages, that huge first download. Older browsers may not support it. Most browsers these days support it, so it's fine. And debugging, not here yet. When I made this slide last year, debugging is a little bit better now. And it's not in preview anymore, which it was when I made this slide. So that is about it for the slides. Let's see here. Oh, I do have one more slide. One more, just one more. After watching this stream, you'll know the difference between server-side and client-side Blazor. You might already now, after that little speech. You'll know generally how Razor works. So we're going to do some binding and stuff. I'm going to show you, where the HTML lives, where the JavaScript lives, etc. You'll know how to create a simple application with Blazor by the time you're done watching this stream. And hopefully you'll follow Pluralsight_live on Twitch so you can catch all of our cool streams. So, great, good to go. Do a quick technical check here, and we'll fire up the IDE. So far, it looks like we're doing well. So, I'm happy. Chat window up here. Some notes. So, we're going to build a What's My IP app. You've probably seen these before, where it just shows you what your IP address is, but the key is that we want to get the location from that application. Now, when I first started to put together this app, I wanted to use DB browser for Sqlite to show some queries, and then I wanted to build a Sqlite database that held these things. So I'll show you very quickly. I'll just drop this on my desktop. We're not going to use this today, but I felt there's an honorable mention here. So test.db. What I wanted to do is create a simple SQLite database that would be perfect for this. And I've actually built these before where we can turn that IP into a zip code, into a city, things like that. But my IP range is not in the database, so I was not able to do it. What I've done here is just open up Chrome, and I'll show you one database that I pull from that is free. United States zip code database. I use the personal version because I'm not making any money with this stuff, so totally legal. And just download a CSV of that. And then the other one is Maxminds. Maxmind.com. Geolocate. This is kind of the same thing. You can geolocate an IP address with databases. So I download both of those CSVs, right? And we go in here and we say, let's import table from a CSV file. And I will jump into data, geolocation. So first, we'll import this CSV file here that I downloaded. We're going to call it zip code. I don't know. I guess zip code's probably the best one. Keep our column names in the first line, field separator. As you can see, the fields are separated here. So I'm using DB Browser for Sqlite to access the Sqlite database. I've built several applications with Sqlite as a database and Blazor, and it's so fast and awesome. As you can see, we just imported all these, and this just turns a zip code here into city information. So I will import another table here from CSV file, and we are going to do Sqlite City IPv4. This is our IP information. And once again, just importing the CSV. And you can imagine this is the entire IP range. Tons of IPs. Well, not the entire one, but a lot. We need to rename this. Actually, I'll just delete it and import it again. I don't like that table name. So Sqlite City, IPv4. This one I'm going to call IP address. And I'm kind of setting this up because we're going to do stuff with this in future streams. And also I just want to show how cool Sqlite is, to be honest. It's one of the coolest things ever. I'm just a huge fan of Sqlite databases. So here we go. We got our IP ranges here. Now, when I was setting that up, I wanted to set up a query. We say select IP address, postal code, we'll call that zip code, IP address network, and that is, trying to remember what field network is. Just make sure that I got that table name right. Yeah, network. Zip code, primary city, as city, zip code, I think it's state, yeah, state, as state, and what was the last, the country. And another reason I'm showing you this is because the data model that we're going to use an executable with using the same similar data structure, so this stuff is all applicable. Yeah. Applicable as country. So we're going to select all of those from IP address. We'll do our inner join, zip code, and our zip code, zip code.zip is IP address zip. Postal code. There we go. So here's our query. And check that out. So we've linked these two tables together. So now a zip code there and the IP address are linked. Now, one of the problems that I had was, I'll go here to what's my IP? I think this one is the site I'm basing it off of. Copy this. What's my IP? So we'll say where network, as you can see, network is where the IP addresses are. Like. Paste this in here. We'll leave that last octet off of there and run it. And we get nothing, right? So that's where the problem came in. So I thought, well, I'll just shave off this octet. And then that comes up with a whole bunch of them. So I'm generally, most IP databases say that I'm in Hillsboro, Oregon. So it is in the list, and there's Forest Grove. That's even closer to me. However, I get this giant list because I'm only using 2 of those octets. If I try to use the exact IP address that it would be, which is 0/24, oops, doesn't come up with anything. So that's why I decided not to go this route. This is the route that I was going to go, is I was going to build this Sqlite database, query it with our Blazor app, and pull it up. But I figure if I can't show everybody where I'm coming from, then the whole demo is blown. However, like I said, just wanted to do kind of an honorable mention here because this is cool. This is really awesome, and I highly recommend checking out Sqlite if you have not done so yet. So we have a workaround. Found another way to do this. Now I'm going to open up Visual Studio, and we are going to create our first Blazor app. And as you can see, we have Blazor Server app right here. We also have Blazor WebAssembly app. So if we wanted to make that WebAssembly, that client-side one that we talked about, this is how we would do it. We would select it right here. And I'm refreshing my chat really quick to make sure that that is still working. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. So let's jump in here. I forgot, we don't even have music going. So, Blazor Server app. It's going to be created in my repos folder. We're going to call this What's My IP as a solution name. Click Next. We're going to be using .NET 6 for this. Authentication type, none. We're not going to enable Docker or anything. We don't need to yet. And then we just create, and this will create our Blazor application. And I am wondering what happened to the chat. That's okay. Chat seems to have died. Okay, so this is our Blazor application, and we can actually push play, like I like to say, or hit F5. Bring it up. Let's see what it does. It's opening it up on my other screen, but we'll fix that. Here's our Blazor app. So what's really cool about Blazor is you will write C# and it'll turn into JavaScript. It sounds crazy, but when you do the app, it has a little demonstration of that and how it works. Pretty cool, right? We're not going to use any of this, but it's here and available. It's very cool. So these things are split out into these Razor components. We're going to use the index Razor component primarily for what we're doing here. However, if we go to that counter that I just showed, you can see that this Razor component loads up when you click on counter. And this is all that counter is. This is all the code that it takes. What it says is current count, and it's bound to this private int, current count equals 0. And then there's an increment count that's called onClick. So when you click that button, it calls increment count, current count plus plus. That's it. This code here is C#. This code is HTML, kind of. It's Razor syntax. But it's HTML, And this is what we're going to do today. We're going to bind values like this. So when I was talking about binding values, this is what I mean by binding values. We're taking this HTML, throwing these values in, and these values actually come from a C# class. So as you can see, we have no JavaScript here. And as much as I hate to beat that drum, some of the things that people really enjoy about Blazor is that it's not a lot of JavaScript going on. Which, it's fine. I'm fine with JavaScript, but some folks, this is one of the biggest selling points. So, this is our counter. What we're going to do, let's go to, I think it's nav menu. We're going to wipe those out. We don't need them. We're going to build our own stuff today, so we're just going to have the home. We're not going to do the survey, so we can delete that. And we can even delete those components. Counter, we'll delete that. Fetch data, this one's kind of interesting, so I should show fetch data. This one also uses binding. And you can see here, we're using Razor to say if forecasts equals null. So we're using forecasts here as, and here it is right here. Weather forecasts, and all that is a list, basically. And we for each through that to display this stuff. And so you can put logic in your HTML, which kind of mixes things up a little bit, right? Because you have logic down here in your code, which is identified by code. You have logic in your C# code, but you also have some display logic that you can use in the Razor stuff, and we'll do that also. But we're going to get rid of that fetch data. We're going to do all our own stuff today. So in index.razor, just going to say hello world. We'll just change this to what's my IP? Question mark. There we go. What's my IP? Oh, and someone on Twitch just said can't see the Solution Explorer. I apologize. That was a big oversight on my part because the chat window is over here. So let me just bring it over really quick so I can show the sections that I was just talking about. In our shared folder, we have shared files. So these are files that are templates. We have the nav menu and a main layout, and this is just a template to show, or a template to kind of be global across the application. So main layout.razor will get you loaded with every single page. And then we see here where it's calling nav menu, and that calls another Razor component that's our navigation menu that I deleted. And then pages, these are the actual Razor components here. And then some CSHTML, which is pretty similar to templates, I guess. This kind of lays things out. This will build that final HTML page that you all will see. Mostly, we're going to focus right here in index.razor. This is our index Razor component. This is where we're going to focus most of our time. So I'm just going to kind of put that solution window over there. And I'm going to put the code for this on my GitHub. So it's not going to be anything super fancy, but I will put it on my GitHub in case folks want to download it, play with it, mess with it. So we need to figure out what our IP is. Now, when I was explaining the models, I kind of explained why we can't grab request data. So oftentimes in ASP.NET, you can grab request data. So whenever the request comes in, you can say, what were the folks asking for? What kind of parameters they put in, et cetera, et cetera. And you can also get, what's their IP address? What's their, I can't even think of it now. The browser. I don't know why the real term slips my mind, but it can show the browser, shows the IP address, things like that. We can't really do that with this because this is packaging up this JavaScript and shoving it down to the client. It just doesn't really work the same way. It's a lot more complex. So what I decided to do was just use ipify.org. So this is a really cool site. I'll just load it up here. This is how I decided to get our IP address. A simple public address API. You can hit it with curl, get your IP address, comes back in a JSON. It is super, super easy to use. So that's what I decided I'm going to use today. So what I need to do here is create a code section. Remember, we had page and then we had code. So I need to create a code section for my C#. And we can bind something really quick. Say public string message, get set. We'll bind message. And now we have message bound here. So to, let's see, I'm trying to remember. I think it's protected override. This is basically almost like a constructor for this. It's called onInitialized async. Initialized async. So this is when the page is initialized. There we go. Did I get it right? Yeah, I got it right. Okay. So every time this page loads, this will be called first. Just put that in the comments. This will be called first. So this will be the first thing that's called when this page is loaded. And we're going to say message equals hello there. We're going to bind our first variable here. And there's our hello there message. Pretty cool, right? Maybe it's not that impressive, but it is pretty easy to bind these things. There's also two-way binding. We're not really going to get into that today, but two-way binding is nearly just as easy. Where we have these fields down here, and we can just pull them in from text boxes and things like that. Pull them in, do some stuff to them, send them back. So the two-way binding is just as easy. But uninitialized async, I'm going to go ahead and create a method here, I think, to get the IP. So I'm trying to remember how we'll learn as we go here. So this one will say private string get my IP. We don't need to pass it anything. And what we're going to do is just create an HTTP client. So HTTP client. Yes. Perfect. And we are going to say, what is our IP address? It's going to be, we're going to do a get client or get string async. HTTP client dot get string async. And that is, I've got to go back to apify.org here. Oh, I could just copy and paste this stuff. What am I doing? Because we all do that, right? This is the string right here. Perfect. So there's our IP. We'll just say toString okay. Return IP. Okay, so in our little message here, we'll just populate that. We'll take our message and say get my IP. Perfect. So, does not exist. Now I gotta remember what it is I pulled that from. Let's see. Which library is HTTP client? Oh, system.net HTTP, that's right. System.net.http. Totally had a brain fart there. So we'll just return this. And it doesn't like that. IP equals and I'm going to go steal that code again. We're not going to await it. We're just going to return it. That's fine. Okay. Go here. And that didn't work either. So it has to be async. Async string. Let's see. Here, we'll just do this. String. Since we need to store this later anyway, we will do IP address equals, and then we don't need to return anything. I'm going to stuff it up here really quick. Sync void get my IP. I'm totally having a brain fart here today. Get this HTTP client. Wait, that should return the task that I need. So yeah, let's make it void. And we'll just call it. There we go. That'll do it. So we also need to await this. Sync task, get my IP. And there's our IP. And let me, oh, and thank you, Eduardo. That's actually awesome. So there's the IP address as it comes across. Now, just to explain kind of what I'm doing here, we're just binding this public string here to this IP address here. So we're done, right? Stream over, yay. But no, we're gonna add more cool stuff to this. But as I go here, it says, what's my IP? Makes that call out to ipfi.org, which sends me back my IP. So this is actually the IP address that I used to contact ipfi.org, which is obviously it's my IP address, but this is how I've decided to get it because, like I said, I can't get that request info out of .NET, can't get stuff like that. So this is what I chose. And here, let's jump in. I'm going to find these instructions for the GeoIP database. So that database that I created earlier does not have my IP range in it, which is fine. Actually, let's bring this over here while we look at it. It's fine, but it doesn't have my IP address range in it. You can use a binary version of this same exact database. The binary version has more accurate data and additional data, and so the binary version does have my IP range in it, so we're going to use the GeoIP client library. Super easy. This is actually far easier than the implementation I was going to do, so that's great. But let's jump over here. Package manager. Let's install it. Install package maxmine GeoIP 2. So now we have an installation. We have the binary implementation for that. And in data, I need to find that MMDB file real quick. Here it is. Okay. We will open folder in File Explorer, drop that in there. Now this is the MMDB file. So this is a database that we're going to read with that binary, if that makes sense. So I'm going to rename this only to copy that file name. And what we're going to do is use this Sqlite library that I just installed to read this database, which actually has my IP range in it, which is great. And this is weather forecast. That's something completely different. So one of the things you need to do here, of course, is go into properties and copy it to the output directory. I just put copy always. So that way it copies that binary file into your output directory. So when you go to publish this thing on Azure or on a web server or whatever, you will have access to this database. And we'll go back into the instructions here. As you can see, it's like super easy. So in here, for get my IP, we're going to create another method here. Void, private void, get my city. That sounds like a good one, right? Instead of console write line, of course, we're going to do it. And I think I need to do using what did I just install? Maxmine GeoIP2. Maxmine. Now we should have that database reader. There we go. Now it says it still can't find it, but we'll see. After we build it, it'll probably find it. So we'll copy this. MMDB. Oops, I keep hitting that forecast, so I'm just going to delete that. You're out of here. You're out of here. All we care about is this little fella right here. So we'll put in our Sqlite city. That's going to be in data. Maximize GeoIP2. Okay, there we go. All right, so for this one, we're going to have to pass in our IP address. I can see already. In order to make this a true function, we'll pass in the IP address, or we could just get it up here. There's no guarantee it exists up here. So I will probably just call the method like this. Get my city IP address. It's returning void, and all this is going to do is, well, let's see what it's going to do. Do we still have message up here? Let's put message up here. And we'll just dump it all into this message for now. See, city is going to be IP address. Console write line. Instead of that, we're going to say message equals response country ISO code. All right, let's run it. Let's see if it works. No. Typer namespace data does not exist. Where on earth? Oh, that's right. So I deleted this stuff. So that was that weather forecast service that I deleted earlier, causing it to break. There we go. Now we have, what's my IP address? We have this IP address, and then we have US, which isn't helpful, but it's something more. So I'm going to change that up a little bit. Now in here we have, let's just grab that response really quick. We'll check out all the cool fields that we have in the response for this. Check it out. So in this response, we have city, continent, country, location, most specific subdivision, which is Oregon, postal code 97213. So this thinks I'm in Hillsboro, Oregon, which isn't very far from where I'm at. One of the things to note about these databases. So with MaxMind, if you pay money, you can get a more accurate IP database from them. So this is just the free version, this binary that I have, this database. It's all the free version, so it's not that great, not that accurate. However, if you want to pay money, it can be a lot more accurate. However, it's never going to go right down to the individual house, residence, location. Thankfully, they don't get that granular, but I have a feeling if I purchase the paid version, it might say I'm in Gaston, which is where I'm in. Might not, I don't know. But anyway, we can see this response here. We can see that we have quite a bit of stuff. You can even check, is it anonymous, or using a proxy, VPN, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We don't really care that much about that, but I do want it to say that I'm in Hillsboro, Oregon. So we're going to add some more fields here. Public string, city, string, state, And let's do country. Why not? Country. Oops. That should get us pretty close here. So pretty close to a final product. We will put you are located in question mark city state and country. All right, so we should be able to pull all of this from here, and what we'll do is we'll just populate it down here from our response. So we'll say city equals response.city state, and why doesn't it like that? Oh, because I can't convert city to string. Do I need to? Let's see if this works before we go any farther. Okay, so artist says, oh, a thought process while I was trying to figure out how to load the things up. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking about, but I typed it in wrong, essentially. And because I was doing up here, you have to put in using. So you have using statements just like any other C# app. They just look a little different. So I needed to use that maximind GeoIP thing. Now let's see if our city comes up. You are located in Hillsboro. Perfect. Hillsboro is pretty close to where I am. That's the hub, you could say. So state, country, So maybe response state is not a thing. Let's see what location is. I mean, that's what I figure that's what we're looking for, right? Is location. So oh, there's all kinds of silly stuff in here. We got latitude and longitude. That gives me an idea. Population density, time zone. Okay. Oh, I don't need any of that stuff yet. What I need is the state. And I thought that was there. Maybe it's most specific subdivision. This is a string, 3 characters long, so that should work. We'll toString that. Or no, that's probably like an abbreviated, like an OR or something. I'm in Oregon. So let's see what that comes up with. Yeah, it does OR for Oregon, which is fine. Hillsboro, Oregon, United States. Fairly accurate. So let's change this. And as you can see, the data binding, oh, it changed it for me. As you can see, the data binding is just super easy. You know, we just put in this little placeholder, pull it from down here, populate it as we go. Super easy. And realistically, the amount of code we have here is very small so far. So this is, this is like a really small amount of code for what we're doing here, which is we're pulling this IP address from an outside source, pulling it in, populating it in the page, then saying you're located in. We're taking that IP address hitting it against that database. It's coming back with information, you know, where does that IP live? Where is it located? It's saying it's in Hillsboro, Oregon, United States, which is pretty close. And we have some null reference stuff here, which I'm not really going to worry about right now. This is a very hacked up kind of just kind of want to show how to build a Blazor app, right? That is, after all, the title of the stream, how to build a Blazor app. So this is how you build a Blazor app. And technically, we're building a Razor component. We're just basically taking this, putting some C#, making it turn into JavaScript, and we're cool. Let's put a little map in here. So for this one, I don't want this to be quite as big. This one was just a little big. So for the first part of our tool, we're grabbing the IP address. So when someone types in what's my IP, they want to go to this page. It'll say, here's your IP address. You are located in Hillsboro, Oregon. Pretty cool. But what about a map? What about a map? I saw some latitude and longitude there. So there was a site. Well, let's see if I can find it. I think it's like mapsgenerator.com. It should be in my history. There we go. GoogleMapGenerator.com. There we go. So in here, I can put in Hillsboro, Oregon. Cool, right? So here's Hillsboro, Oregon. Oh, I should read the directions. Use Control X. Just to kind of give you an idea of how close this is. This is Hillsboro, Oregon. I live here in Laurelwood, which is down here, out in the middle of nowhere, right in the middle of sticks. Chances are my internet goes through the mountains here somewhere into Hillsboro. I highly doubt there's a big hub in Forest Grove. And almost every time I go to one of those sites that shows your location, it almost always says Hillsboro. So I'm pretty happy with that. But what I'll do here is I typed in Hillsboro, Oregon, the map zoom, get HTML code. I'll copy this. And what I'm going to do is put a map on here. So once again, we'll be doing some dynamic stuff. But that's cool. So we can just dump this because this is HTML, right? So we're just putting in HTML. Try to format it a little bit here so it's not so huge, wild line of code. And it looks like we're going to go over a little bit, but I really want to show this map thing. It's just a thing that I get rid of this link. Looks like this is just a long style sheet. Another link. This isn't going public, so I'm not going to put these links up here. Okay. So now we've got our stuff for the map. And we press it just to make sure that it renders. Cool. It says Hillsboro. However, that's because it's hard coded right now, right? Because I just copied it from that website. So what I need to do is look at this string. And as you can see, it just does a Google Maps query for Hillsboro, Oregon. So I'll just take this out, cut, and we'll add another variable in here, map location. I don't know what I would call that. You could call that a map URL, right? It's a map URL. Prop string map URL. Get set. Okay. So here I'm just going to take my city, state, and country. Actually, I think it's just city, state, right? So map URL equals, there's my map URL. And I'll just bust this out. Instead of Hillsboro, I'll append city. I could probably do this at the top, actually. I mean, it doesn't have to be here. And then for the state, it just happens to be the 2-letter prefix also, so cool. Right on crouton. We will put in our state. And then this will be a map URL that is dynamic. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it works. Hello, Leger. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Hello, thank you for coming into the chat. And there we go, Hillsboro, Oregon. Let's just check some stuff. Let's try to break it. Not really try to break it, but let's prove that this stuff isn't all just happening local to me. So for city, I'm going to change that. We're going to say city equals Chicago, which of course the state will be Illinois. Same country. Let's press the button. Let's see what it says for Chicago, Illinois. You are located in Chicago, Illinois. And there's the map for Chicago, Illinois. Great. Fantastic. Let's try putting in another IP. I have no idea where this IP will lead, but basically what I was proving with that, so I should step back a little bit to show my thought processes. I just want to make sure that things are updating the way they should, right? So when this thing says Hillsboro, Oregon up here and then shows Hillsboro, Oregon on the map, I want to make sure that I haven't hard-coded anything, that it is truly dynamic. And so I hard-coded Chicago, Illinois, just to make sure that the map corresponds to this. So that's why I put that in there. Sometimes I do spot checks on myself while I'm coding like this, where I'm like, let's just throw some other kind of edge case in. Let's throw in something different to make sure that things are behaving the way we want. Now I'm going to do that with the IP address. And we're going to just put in a different IP address that could be, who knows. So instead of get my city, or yeah, we're still going to do get my city with IP address. But remember how we're passing it in here? Let's just pass in something different. And I have no idea what this will come up with. I'll make it somewhat close to my IP address, which was somewhere around here. There it is. So get my city. We're going to change the subnet here to 203. Just see what that comes up with. And once again, I'm spot checking myself. Beaverton, Oregon. Interesting. But I'm spot checking myself here because look at that. Get my IP. Oops. This IP does not match. So instead of that, let's see, task. Wait, get my IP. IP that populates that IP address. I am going to have to, instead of this, we're going to say IP address equals. Then I don't have to pass it in that way, but let's just see if this changes the display. There we go. Now we have 203, which apparently is Beaverton, Oregon, which is right next to Hillsboro. So that would make sense. You know, that octet is just a little bit farther different from Hillsboro. So let's try changing like this. And I'm just going to put this back in here. But we're hard coding our IP address to see what kind of different stuff we can come up with here. Now I'm located in Kathleen, Georgia. And so as we can see, we have a different IP address. I changed some of that, and now we're located in Kathleen, Georgia. Awesome. And I should format this just a little different here. How about city state? That looks a little better. All right, city state. Press play. There we go. You're located in Kathleen, Georgia. And then that is surprisingly a town I have never heard of. So if you're from Kathleen, Georgia, hello. Your city is famous today, which it looks like its closest big city is probably Macon. And I'm entirely unfamiliar with this area, so I've never heard of Kathleen, Georgia. Let's try just putting in random stuff. 72, I think is what we had before, wasn't it? We'll see. We got that null error that I was avoiding that I didn't care about because that IP address is not in their system. So that's something we have to code for, right? Let's put a little message in here. We'll do this message. And then let's surround this with a try catch. I don't suggest doing this. We're just doing this to show some things, but I wouldn't suggest doing this on a production site. But let's catch our exceptions and put it in the message. Oops, message. Equals ex to string. Yeah, null reference exception. You should be telling me I have a null reference exception. I think I put that breakpoint in there earlier. Okay, exception thrown. Continue. Continue. There we go. There's our system null reference exception. You are located in nothing. You are in this range somewhere. You're somewhere on planet Earth, which is a pretty safe assumption. Hello, Thindal. Hello, One Lion. How's it going? It's going great. Unfortunately, I'm just getting ready to wrap up this stream, but it's going great. We built a Blazor app for the first time as an audience, and going to do a heck of a lot more of it. So I'm going to be streaming every Tuesday. I think I said that at the beginning of the stream. We'll send the raid somewhere else. Yeah, well, thank you for wanting to raid. That is awesome. But yeah, I'm pretty much done with this stream. That would have been our first raid. Maybe I should just keep babbling for a couple hours, but I totally appreciate that. That is awesome. Yes, the live coders. So I recently became a member of the live coders team on my personal Twitch. So much fun. Such a great, awesome group of people. So I highly recommend you go to livecoders.tv. Let me see. I'll just see if I got that URL right. Or you can search for live coders on Twitch. Oh, it's livecoders.dev. So livecoders.dev, you can see live coders team. Purpose to support coders, developers, technologists. There are so many awesome people on this team that do so much cool stuff. And they're working on the website right now. So it's kind of a work in progress. Seems like every time I come here, it looks a little different and it looks better. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, livecoders.dev. Check it out. It's a very cool group of people. It's very awesome. Fun stuff. Where was I? I was totally off. Lost my train of thought, but that's all right. Oh, so it actually updates and you can set your profile text. Awesome. I'll do that because I think on my profile, it doesn't say what I stream because nobody really can guess exactly what it is, but I should probably give people a general idea. On my personal stream, I kind of go all over the place, different languages and technologies, but, oh yeah, the exception handling stuff. So that's what I was going to do, is just put a little thing in here, make these things nullable. Why not? Yeah, these all can be nullable. Now, if they're null, then we should say nothing found, right? If it's not null, go here. Seems like a decent way to handle this. And I should take a vote here in the chat. Should we do something Blazor on my next stream on Tuesday? Should we continue adding to this thing? Let me know, or let me know on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch this afterwards. That usually is the case with my personal streams, is I get more people watching it after I stream it than when I stream it. So get a hold of me on Twitter if you would like to see more Blazor stuff, more stuff with this particular application. State not null, state found. If country not null, we'll just handle this little problem that I surfaced here. Else. And then we'll wrap up the stream after this. Lyndall says, if you enjoy Blazor, then keep at it. Yeah, I really do enjoy Blazor a lot. One of the things I want to stream about when I learn a little more about is Maui. I'm messing with Maui right now and would love to share some of the things that I'm learning with that. But what is the Pluralsight Twitch channel? Lyndall's asking. It's Pluralsight_live. So that's what I'm actually streaming on right now. We're just getting it built up. There is a Pluralsight official. It's a long story. Twitch, please help us. We got locked out of the Pluralsight official one. So we are now at Pluralsight_live. Content not found. All right. So yeah, I put in this goofy IP address. It says you're located in not found, not found, not found, not found, not found. Perfect. That's what I want. Now, if I actually make it pull my real IP address again, it still says not found. Wait, get my IP. That is interesting. Let's see if the IP address is changing. Yes. So there's my IP address. Still says I'm located in not found, not found, not found. So raw response. City. Oh, duh. I'm pulling the properties. They're null. They're null. So what I need to do is check. See, the other day, the founder of Live Coders, Jeff Fritz, did like a 12-hour stream. And I said to myself, I'm not cut out to do that. Today's proof. Because I've only been doing this an hour. And I've already like totally spacing out. But I'll get better at it, right? The more I stream. There we go. So if the response is not null, not the field, which will be null. Yeah, try to keep it at 2 hours. That's probably reasonable for me for right now. That way I don't make silly mistakes. But part of the reason I love streaming so much is because I can make mistakes. I could have people help me figure it out, or I figure it out and talk about figuring it out. And that's one of the great things, you know. This isn't like a polished presentation that I'm giving at some huge conference that I practiced 10 times in the hotel room before I went out. It's just, you know, turn it on in code. I think it's valuable. I think it proves that I'm the world's okayest developer, which is my claim. So yeah, here we go. This is our final product. We said we were going to create a what's my IP Blazor app. Here it is. This shows me what my IP is. Says I'm located in Hillsboro, Oregon, which is close to where I am, and in the United States, and then shows me a map. I don't know what the map thing is, what's so cool about it, but I just thought I'd add it in. I mean, it's kind of like, you're in Hillsboro, Oregon. Here's a map of it. Well, obviously it's 10 minutes away from me, so I don't really need a map, but it's just kind of a cool little feature add-on. So if you're watching the stream, thank you for watching the stream. Thank you for all the people that jumped into chat. Very awesome. And looking for cool ideas. Maybe we'll add on to this thing a little bit. I kind of have some ideas that might be kind of cool that we could do with Blazor. We could make some little small tool sets. Let's see. Oh, here's an idea. The cool thing is you can move the coordinate that you're showing from the server and have the map move. That might be kind of cool. Track something moving. Oh, yeah. I'll have to think about that. That might be kind of cool. Yeah. Maybe we could do some distance things, like put out a list of distance for cool places to walk. Like, if you look here, we have parks on here. I bet you I could get that list somewhere. And you could say, you are 10 miles from Hondo Dog Park, or you're whatever. What's the closest park to me, or something? I don't know. There's some cool stuff, but we'll do this. But basically what I wanted to do, and that was in the slide when I started this, those dreaded slides that I closed. But I said, you know, I would explain the difference between server-side and client-side Blazor. We did that. So now you know the difference between that. You know how to create a Blazor app from the start. You roughly know how the Blazor app works because we explained the components and how we put together these components. You know, we have like the Razor part of it. We have the C# part of it. We explained bindings. So I think I pretty much hit my goals here for, and thank you for those ideas. Click the park in a list and have it pan and center on that one. There we go. So I am going to keep that in mind. That would be cool because I love parks. Everybody loves parks. I should act like I love parks. Everybody loves parks. And so that would be kind of cool to do something with that. But yeah, my goals at the start of this stream were to tell you roughly what Blazor is, what the two hosting models are, what you'd use each for, then create a Blazor app, which we did, and then roughly how Blazor works, you know, with the Razor components and stuff like that. We went through that. And then, you know, how binding works. And we showed a little bit of this binding stuff. And so I think it hit all the goals. And I would love to keep going on it. So tune in to All Hands on Tech Live. Maybe we'll do a cool Blazor series where we just kind of go from beginner to intermediate. And yeah, I think it'll be great. I think it'll be fun. So I'm going to do this. I'm doing it today, because of stuff that happened yesterday, but Tuesday is going to be my day. So that's my last pitch put out is follow _live on Twitch. David Neal tomorrow at 11 o'clock Pacific time is going to do more things with his Electron app. Really cool, really interesting, really fun stuff. I'm going to take Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time and do .NET stuff, mostly, kind of. I might slip some Linux in there. We might do .NET and Linux. Why not? But yeah, thank you, everybody. Take care to you also. Everybody who joined in chat and things like that. Everyone that participated, everyone that watched, thank you very much. Super grateful, and I'll hopefully see all of you next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, here on Twitch, YouTube, etc.